Well, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Nate Shear, and this is Mind Matters, the podcast for love, life, and learning where your mind matters. Today we have Nicholas Jenkins in the house. Hi, Nick.
Hey, holla.
Going to give him a chance to walk through his current podcast, hear a little bit more about the Conversation Network.
Well, first off, thank you, Nate, for having me. It's great to see you again, and it's great to be in the company of a fellow podcaster. Congratulations on getting yours launched. That's like we were saying earlier, it's not easy to do, but really glad to see that you've joined the space. I've got my own podcast, the Conversation Network. I've been doing it since August of 2022. I actually released the first episode the day before my birthday. I've had some fun with it. You know, it started out as, it's called the Conversation Network now, but it was originally called Learning to Bet on Yourself. And it was supposed to be, very, motivational, inspirational, kind of like the stories of the underdogs, if you will. But as I was going through it, not everybody has an underdog story, or maybe an underdog story they're comfortable sharing. So I kind of transitioned it a little bit more to like, look, I just want to talk to my friends. So see how they're doing. There's still opportunities to share stories about, when they've bet on themselves or like when they've overcome the adversity or anything like that, but kind of taking that really pigeonholed piece out of it and kind of just letting it be kind of an open format, round table type of situation. And I'm actually getting ready to wrap it up here just a little bit. Just schedule's gotten kind of crazy. Work has gotten a little crazy. And it's taken a lot of time. As you're learning, it's a lot to do on one's own. But I really hope to bring it back at some point, maybe in a different format, maybe a different kind of subject matter. But it's been fun. I've learned a lot about myself, had a really great time, and been able to connect with some friends on a different level. So yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was kind of joking. A few people I've told, like at work and whatnot, I'm like, oh, I started a podcast, and some people kind of chuckle. And I'm like, really, it's a secret way for me to hang out and really talk to people that I love and I've spent a lot of good time with and whatnot. And it just happens to be recorded on the back end. So it's just fun conversations that I happen to hit a red button for.
Sure.
Today we'll be talking about some mental fitness aspects. So really just trying to get diverse perspectives from all different ways of life, as highlighted throughout the different episodes, really trying to get after these, what can be difficult conversations for people. And I believe if we continue having these conversations on how we are raised and how we experience it and tips and tricks for things like that, it'll just get easier and easier. So we'll just keep inviting people on and hearing a little bit about their story. So the first question I got for you, was there a pivotal time or a time where mental fitness really became more important for you?
Probably say really upon my separation from the military, which was we're going almost 6 years since I've been out. And, when you're in the military and everything like that, mental fitness is a discussion. Like for me, get to your first base, you're going through all the introductory courses and things like that of being a new military member. Here's all the services that are offered on base. And then, you get into the healthcare portion of it. And then they say that, mental health is something you can take advantage of if you need to talk to somebody, if you're struggling with substance abuse, if you're, don't want to get too touchy, but feeling suicidal or anything like that, like here is a resource for you. But even back then, like while I was active duty, mental health, it still has kind of a stigma for it. So, or around it, excuse me, not for it. But I did actually pursue mental health services while I was active duty, but I was very, very secretive about it. And largely because I didn't want people to think I was crazy. So, or think that I couldn't handle being a military member, because I know that joining the military was a big deal for me, as it is for anybody. But I know there was a lot of people who probably thought that I wouldn't make it past the first 24 hours of boot camp, probably wouldn't make it past my first year. And the first year was really tough. It was a different experience than I thought it was going to be. I was a military dependent for the first 13 years of my life, and was very fortunate. I lived overseas and lived in Japan, Germany, and Italy, and lived on base, off base, everything's kind of like a compact small town. And you really, as a dependent, you have, at least for me, I had everything at my fingertips. So I kind of got into this mindset that, and it was a great life, and I really enjoyed it. I remember begging, my dad retired in the middle of my 8th grade year, and I remember begging him to enlist for 4 more years just so I could finish high school. But where I'm going with that is being a dependent and being active duty. I always say there's a big difference in being in the military and living off of the military like I did. And that was a big curve for me that I don't think I prepared myself for the very first year. And things were stressful that first year. And then, I'd always heard about mental health and everything like that. And I'm like, I just needed someone to talk to, but I kind of wanted to be private about it. And, again, I didn't want anyone to think I was crazy. I definitely don't think anyone who pursues mental health or counseling or anything like that now is crazy by any means. I had to learn that through my own experience. But so that's kind of where it started. And then the first year out of separation was really difficult for me. I left all my friends who I'd been spending the last 5 years cultivating relationships with, moved to a brand new state, didn't know anybody, had never been to the state before. And it was really tough. It was really depressing, really sad. I was not really, I was glad to be out of the military. I was glad that I don't regret making the decision to separate, but it was just a shock, very much like going into the military as an active duty member. Getting out of it was just as much of a shock, and it was a big adjustment phase. So that's kind of when I started to take it a little bit more seriously, and I sought counseling again, just to kind of talk through my thoughts, my emotions, my feelings, because I had a good job. I did start to get to meet people. I was exploring Colorado a little bit, but I still had a whole bunch in my head that I needed to download, needed to process, and just get it out of my head. Just talking to somebody else who maybe wasn't my friend, my sister, my family member, something like that, someone who didn't know me, gave me a different perspective. And again, just allowed me to get it out of my head and make me feel a little bit better. It was kind of a roundabout answer. All different avenues there. But yeah.
I mean, I think the two biggest things that I took from that are, one, ongoing, like we had talked about just before the episode started, mental fitness, ongoing. You start, you always go, if you're having a good day, you go, and you're not having a good day. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just that ongoing. It should be the same. Like, if you have a schedule at the gym, if your schedule at the gym's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, why can't your, appointment over there be, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you just stick to it? And then the other aspect is the spectrum. I really want people to start to understand and really connect with the spectrum. There's a whole list of things that you can get mental health for. So like you had said, you just wanted someone to talk to. So there's someone to talk to. And then, there's clinical and, farther ends of the spectrum. But for some reason, mental health has been lumped into one thing. And it's like you said, just crazy and pills, when really there's, a slightly bad day where you have a small inconvenience and stub your toe and you just want to tell somebody because you're frustrated, to like major issues. I mean, that's the spectrum, but for some reason it's all lumped together, and it seems to be lumped to the, the far extreme side where it's like the worst thing ever, when there's a broad spectrum what could be going on. So those are really good points. So for us to understand you a little bit more, can you give us a brief recap? Tell us your origin story.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned, I was my dad was in the military, and, I grew up as a military dependent the first 13 years of my life. I was very fortunate to live overseas. I'm originally from Missouri. And when I say from Missouri, that's just where we retired when my dad got out. But he and my mom are both from here. Moved back to Missouri in the middle of my 8th grade year back in, I'm going to age myself here, back in 01. And, I graduated high school from here, went to college here on and off for quite a few years after graduation. I graduated. So this Saturday will be 18 years ago that I graduated. So again, I'm continuing to age myself here. I don't know why I'm doing that. Very masochistic. But so I went to high school, college here, worked here. I joined the military in 2012 just to give myself something new, give myself a new perspective, do something with my life, really, honestly, get a fresh start. Served for 5 years in California. I did contracts when I was in the military, and I did contracting for a little bit after I got out of the military. Moved to Colorado, lived there for a few years, lived in Nashville for a few years doing grants management, got out of contracts and moved into like the cousin of contracts, still financial assistance. And then I moved back to Missouri last year. My sisters keep having kids. So when I got out of the military, I had two nieces and a nephew, and now I've got 4 nephews and 2 nieces. And it was always my dream to, it's weird, like be an uncle. I've always looked forward to the idea of spoiling my sister's kids and then giving them back, which I do. And I just did the other day, and I'm very proud to continue doing that. But yeah, I'm doing grants management for a branch of under the USDA, and then on the side, hosting the podcast, and I also write resumes as a side hustle. So got my hands in kind of a little bit of everything. And
awesome. Sounds like you got a lot of creativity flowing.
Trying to, anyways. That's a big part of my mental fitness journey is keeping myself engaged, really exercising the creative side of my brain. That's been a really big thing for me too. That's part of my mental fitness regiment, I guess, if you would say. So.
That's one thing. I guess it's kind of backtracking, but I did kind of want to mention that you said you had jumped into the podcast, you had done it for a little bit, and you're feeling a little bit tired, and there's a lot going on. You're going to step away, but I think that's a super important thing as well. I mean, you can take breaks, you can come back, but the ability to use your brain and exercise that creativity. So if anyone's like worried, like, oh, I'm not sure, I won't have the time, I won't have that, try. Like maybe you do it for a year and you never do it again. That's cool, but maybe you come back or maybe you don't. But I think trying new things really does help the brain, stretch. Like we talked about mental fitness.
Yeah, you were talking about you can always come back, because I've already exceeded what I thought was going to be my timeline with the podcast. I was like, okay, I started it in August. I'll take it to the end of the year. We'll do a end of the year wrap up. How was 2022? That'll be a organic way to end it. And I'm like, well, I've still got more to say. I've still got people who want to share their stories. We'll keep it going for 2 months, get through the winter, give something people to listen to when they're stuck at home. And then we got into spring and, still had some stories to share. And now we're getting into summer and work has ramped up a little bit. And my personal life is, I'm going to the gym a little bit more and taking on some more responsibilities in different areas of my life. And I love doing the podcast, but cramming a lot in. And I think one thing for me, as far as mental fitness, I've had to really recognize when I'm putting too much on my plate. And when maybe, I wouldn't say doing too much, but I've just got a lot going on and I'm not able to spread myself as thin as I used to be able to. And the other thing about the podcast is I want it to continue to be good, per se. I mean, we're not winning awards or anything like that, but I don't want it to just be me spitting words into the microphone just to put an episode out or something like that. I want to keep it fresh, want to keep it engaging. So sometimes the best way for me to do that, I found, is step away and then come back, whether it's writing an email to a colleague at work, whether it's, trying to put a project together, trying to create the podcast, walk away and then come back. And sometimes you got to walk away for a couple months. But so I was really glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think that brings up another gold nugget. We're just dropping nuggets of good knowledge here. I think another thing is identification, right?
Yeah. Still learning that.
I recognize and I need to step away instead of I'm going to press through. I'm just going to keep doing it or whatever. Knowing how to do it is one thing. Knowing when or identifying that it needs to be done is probably a whole nother thing. If you never identify it, you're just going to keep pressing on and burn out. So that's good. Yeah, identification is really good. So I got another question. This comes from Senior Master Sergeant Robert Rivers. He's great, and this is totally stolen from him. So if he's listening, sorry I stole it, but it's just too good. So it's a 3-part question.
Steal shamelessly.
Exactly. It's mine. But it's a 3-part question, and I feel like in one question, it kind of gets us to understand where you're coming from, and kind of set a baseline foundation for the podcast. So it's one app you're using, one book you recommend, and what you're listening to. And I can break those down again, but one app you're using.
Okay. Well, I talked about this one on my podcast as well a few times. I didn't really have a handle on money until I was almost 30 years old. Didn't understand how to, I've heard the words budget. I've heard the words put money away, retirement, but I really didn't know how to manage money until I was in my late 30s. A friend of mine from the military is really kind of who taught me how. And the app that I really like using, my brother-in-law actually told me about it. It's called Every Dollar. I think it's from the Dave Ramsey collection type of situation. But, I put in my income, how much money I make from my paycheck a month, what all my expenses are. I throw my resume side hustle money in there as well. And then everything is literally, I'm budgeted to the penny. Everything has a category, and then I just go and plug my transactions in. I think you can pay for a version that will automatically float your transactions in for you, but I didn't want to pay for it, so I just go in there manually and do it. But it's really taught me it's helped me continue to learn how to manage money. Like if you budget yourself $250 a month for eating out, which is guilty pleasure of mine. I love to eat out. But if it's May 18th, and out of that 250, you've got $18 left, like I think I probably do. Like, okay, maybe we need to start cooking. Maybe we need to figure something else out. It kind of gives me a 24/7 snapshot of what's going on with my finances. That way I know, like, hey, maybe I budgeted $500 for miscellaneous, but I only spent $200. Maybe that $300 needs to go in savings or to retirement or to somewhere else. So it's, like I said, it's a constant tool that I use to like give me a snapshot of my money and kind of figure out how to use it better. Because I'm definitely behind the curve.
That's definitely super important. One thing that I really liked about his model, I mean, you can choose whatever model, but the idea of the moving, right? Because he started with the envelopes, but the moving, I think, is super important. You're like, hey, I can move over some in the eating out, but I gotta, take money from gas or, whatever it is. But I think the biggest challenge we have, or maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but just the swiping. You used to have to hand money across.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
And now you got the tap. The tap's even worse. I don't even put in a pin. That's just flying out there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, that's a good one. Yeah. I hope people try to look into using some budgeting apps and whatnot. I think awareness like pays itself off. I know some of the ones are paid and people are like, I don't want to pay. But usually if you pay attention for 1 month, like, the free ones are good as well, but usually you'll pay it off in like the first month of just being aware of what's going out the door.
Absolutely.
So, that's good stuff. Next one book you recommend.
Okay, this one might be, I don't know if controversial is the right word or what, but I love like celebrity autobiographies, like on the shelf behind me. As you can see, we have quite a few of them, and that's not even all of them. But the one that I just finished reading about a month ago, I read Paris Hilton's book, her memoir that she just released. And, since the book is very focused on mental health and mental fitness and the things that she went through as a teenager, being in camps that she was sent to for behavioral purposes, and how she, like the abuse that she suffered. It's not been diamonds and champagne her entire life. Actually, like she's probably one of the most misunderstood people just because of how she's been characterized by the media. And I'm guilty of that too. I used to call her an airhead and used to say she was dumb, and I'm the simple life generation. So millennial, but, she taught like this story of her resilience and like how she has overcome and why she has overcome, and what she's gone through and how she's created this empire. It's fascinating, and obviously it's juicy. It's the story of Paris Hilton. So, but like what she's gone through and how she's risen from that. I mean, it's kind of some of the parts to read in it were a little terrifying because she was a child going through that. And I don't want to give too much of it away or scare anybody, but it's fantastic. It's out of all the ones that I've read, like I've got Jessica Simpson, I've got Gronkowski, I've got Prince Harry's book, of course. Nice. I've got Spare, Rob Lowe. Like hers is probably the best out of all the ones that I've read. And like I said, it really tells the true story of who she is, very unflinchingly. So I think I stole that word from the book jacket.
You can learn from anybody, right? And
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then last part is, what are you listening to? I guess that could be music, or I guess could be audiobooks.
Well, right now, the Jonas Brothers just released their new album last week. And I didn't listen to it on release day, so I was listening to that earlier. But I've been my Spotify is like categorization and lists and organizing. That helps. That's also part of my mental fitness. That gives me structure. I think it's a military thing, but that gives me structure. That gives me a sense of calm and things like that. So I have playlists playlists for everything. I was in high school from August 2001 to May 2005. Again, I'm continuing to age myself here, but I've been listening to my high school playlist, and it's got like the really, really old school stuff on it. Like it's got Justin Timberlake when he first went solo, Usher, who else it's got? Three Doors Down, Maroon 5 when they first came. All these folks came out like when I was in high school. So I've been listening to that for the last couple days. So
that's awesome. That's some good stuff.
I think I'm feeling nostalgic because Saturday is many years since I graduated high school. So I'm trying to, even though high school was a horrible time, I'm not sure why I'm trying to relive it, but the music got me through. Yes. So
that was the only.
All of these things are tying back to mental fitness in some aspect.
Absolutely. It's funny. I was watching, was I watching or did I read an article? But they were saying like one of the number one ways to feel at peace is playing Tetris. The human mind wants things to be organized and cleared out. So it made me think of you making the playlist, like just clearing blocks out brings a level of peace to people. Like even you don't play video games, just the organization of things getting cleaned up. It's interesting.
Sure.
Okay, we're going to move over to the meat of mental fitness. So first question for you. What is your go-to self-care activity when you need to boost your mental fitness?
Well, lately, probably in the last like 3 months or so, it's been the gym. So I will say my go-to will always be music. Music will always be like what calms me down, what picks me up when I'm sad, what helps me become less angry if I'm really frustrated or if I'm really mad about something. But so music will always be like a security blanket for me. But lately, the gym is where going to the gym, I've been going a lot. I go about 5-6 times a week. And that's something I never thought I would ever do. When I got out of the military, I hated the gym. And honestly, I've never really liked the gym, but I found a community there. I've made friends there where it's kind of like a family there. I'm also going, and this is something I learned recently, I'm finally going to the gym and exercising for myself. Not obviously to meet the physical standards of the military, which I never had a problem with or anything like that. So, I definitely wanted to be in shape and things like that, but it was something that I had to do. Because you have to pass your annual fitness assessment. Or when I got out of the military, I didn't want to go, but I was like, well, I don't want to. I've always been really self-conscious about my weight, so I don't want to get out of the military and gain a whole bunch of weight my first year and things like that. Which I understand that happens, but and then I didn't want people to think I was lazy or anything like that. So I always felt like I was doing it for any other reason, but for myself, just to go find a place to go be active and stay fit. And now that I've changed my mindset on that, I really love going. I look forward to going, and I never really looked forward to it before. So, and just the encouragement that I get, doing some exercises that I never thought I would ever be able to do again, building some muscle back up. It's been great for, boosting my confidence as well and proving to myself that I can do something I never thought I would ever be able to do, like certain exercises or lifting a certain weight or anything, something like that. So the gym has definitely been what I've really been relying on the last couple months. But I'm having a lot of fun with it too, and I'm really enjoying it. So.
Dang, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a really good point. I've never really thought of it that way. I mean, we go to check the box, and I feel like we do that a lot in the military. There's things they make us do, and so you check it, and then you move on. But doing it for you, that's good stuff.
Well, it's not a bad thing to check the box. I'm checking the box with a lot of things in life, and probably will for years. But for me, anytime I get to do something because I want to and not because someone else is making me do it, I don't know if it's the rebel in me, but it's it's doing it for myself has been a big change on it. So
that makes sense. Do it for yourself.
For sure.
So I heard you got a question for me.
Yeah. Okay. I love any of the whole, like, I love favorites. I love, like, if you could switch with any, like, lives with someone or things like that. I love that because I always want to see, I know what I would want to say to those. So I'm always interested in what other people would say. So I want to know, like, if you could switch brains with anyone for a day to learn their mental fitness routine, who are you thinking you want to switch minds with?
Who would I switch minds with? I think it would have to be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Nice. Great choice.
I follow him on Instagram, and I've seen some of his stuff, and I feel like I'm a confident person, but I still worry about what people think and what they're going to say, and so I have a lot of inner confidence problems, even though, like, outwardly everything looks fine and people don't really see that. But his ability to, push through things, be a beast, he could have internal, things going on as well, but it appears like he does not really care what other people think. He does what's right for him. He does what's right for his family. He's made good choices with, the industry, moving into movies and making successful stuff there and not, just relying on wrestling. So I would love to know kind of what goes through his mind. I'm assuming he's got a 24/7 mantra of "I'm a beast." I don't know if that's true, but I think that's why I'd like to jump in that brain and just see, like, it must be empowering. I would think, like, I'm sure he had moments of, worrying about things, but I think at this point he is just like, I am the best. I'm awesome. Not in like the arrogant type way. I don't want it to sound like that, but like he is confident in everything that he's going to do. So I would really like to hear what he's got going on inside that brain.
Yeah, great choice. Who wouldn't want to change brains change places with The Rock one day? Yeah, he's awesome.
He's a beast. He's funny and can seem to do it all. Next question.
That's the thing. He's got his hands in a little bit of everything. So
triple threat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh boy. Next question for you. What's your favorite song or type of music to help boost your mental health?
Like I said earlier, I've been listening to High School lately, but I'm obsessed with the 90s, all things 90s, TV shows, movies, but especially the music. I'm a boy band guy at heart. Because living overseas, like, you get pop music almost exclusively, living on bass and things like that. You get a little bit of alternative. You might get a little bit of rap. And you might get a little bit of country, but a majority of what they play, pop bands are very popular in, like, Europe and Asia, which is where I grew up. So I have a 90s playlist that I listen to all the time. And I listen to that on my way to the gym, after the gym. If I'm having, like, a bad day at work or something like that, find the Backstreet Boys, find the Spice Girls, find NSYNC, find Puff Daddy music when he was Puff Daddy,
or whatever his name is.
Yeah, whatever he's going by these days, or Notorious B.I.G. I've been listening to Mo Money Mo Problems a lot lately too. So don't know why, but I love that song. So I'm all about the 90s. So.
It feels like, I mean, I know everyone, I think, probably does it from generation to generation, but I just feel like music has not been good in like 20 years. I don't like the bands and the things that you're mentioning, like you pop those on and it doesn't really matter if you're like 12 or like 40. People are like, oh yeah, I can listen to this. Like they're okay with it. Like they might not love it, might not, know every word or whatnot, but like, okay. But now you have like just mumble rap and some of these other ones. I'm like, oh, I don't know. But anyway, I don't want to diss anyone's current music choice, but geez, it just feels like it hasn't been good in a while.
Well, I was talking to someone at the gym about that the other day, and they say it's not that it's bad music these days, it just seems less organic. And less, it's more about the technology, which I mean is great. I mean, it's awesome what they're able to do, but it's less about the voices, less about the instruments, less about all the different organic puzzle pieces coming together to make a really good song. So
the passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like the people. I think now it's like easier with, the computers and AI and whatnot. And so I wonder if, since it's easier, you don't have to pour your heart or your feelings. And that's what people are listening for. They're listening for the feelings. Like you'd mentioned, you're, listening to metal or whatever when you're raging and going crazy and then whatever, like we find the things that match what we need at that time. So that's interesting.
Sure. Yeah. My next question that I've got for you is, what's the weirdest or the most unconventional thing you've tried to improve your mental fitness? And did it work?
This is probably going to be kind of boring for me being a weird person and most people considering me weird. But I think the thing that caught me off guard the most is being in nature. So it wasn't until I was in Guam I really realized like a walk in nature, scuba diving, these things that I do. Like I used to joke a little bit because I was a lifeguard and swimmer in high school. I used to joke like, oh, I can't go too long without being in the water. Like, oh, I'm a fish. But that's like super true. And it wasn't until like I saw more greenery and more really like precious views and things like that. That is super rejuvenating. And I think it just caught me off guard because I don't really consider myself like a hippie or crunchy or, like I grew up in the city. I spent some time in Northern California. So there's some farms and whatnot. Yeah. But I consider myself pretty city. And so I would think that would fall into like the unconventional is I really need to be in nature, hear the sounds, see the views, play in the water. There's really nothing. I love music, like you, and that really connects. But the thing that would pull me the farthest out or will rejuvenate or recharge me the most is really nature. So that's what I would say. Nature, being in nature.
Do you find that you said something about, being into swimming and like I'm a fish and things like that. Do you find like nature and being in the water and all that? Cause isn't it a little like cleansing almost? Like,
yeah. It really feels, I mean, we use like the reference of like recharging your battery and recharging your phone. But I mean, it really feels like that, like clean and better and, just different than when you went into the water. So many different principles, recharge, clean. Absolutely.
Yeah. Something very like holistic about that. Symbolic, not holistic was not the right word. Symbolic about cleansing all the bad energy, negativeness, negativity. Well, I can't talk today. Just through the water. So yeah. But
I think that goes back to probably like, caveman, we're from the earth, there's probably so many things that go into that. We're eating from the earth. And so, I think that's definitely an important thing to bring you full circle.
Yeah.
Next question is, can you give me an example of a common misconception or misunderstanding about mental fitness and kind of explain your truth?
Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of what I said at the very beginning was, being at my first base and everything like that, you'd have people come and talk to you and being like, we have mental health resources for you. You can come talk to somebody. It can be anonymous. You can take advantage of this format. You can take advantage of this format. We have this and we want you to take advantage of it. But again, even with people saying like, here it is on a plate, come get it. I remember back then in 2013, I'm like, well, if I go take advantage of this, because it sounds like something I would really benefit from, but if someone finds out or if someone sees me or whatever, they're going to think I'm crazy. And then, like you mentioned earlier, about being worried about what people think of you. That's something I've really learned how to shed and get away from in the last couple of years. But that was a really hard lesson for me to learn. And I'm still learning that lesson today. Still got some work to do on that. But a common misconception about mental fitness and seeking therapy or seeking help or getting access to resources is only crazy people get them. I think people who just need an extra outlet, they need something more. Like, a lot of people are very self-sufficient and, or they have a close inner circle, family, friends. But I've noticed with me, a big reason why I wanted to seek outside mental help was because I wanted someone who might not agree with me, someone who's going to be, maybe, I wouldn't say not in my corner, but doesn't know me, isn't going to maybe agree with everything I say, isn't going to be worried about, isn't going to be worried about hurting my feelings. And those are the kinds of things that you can get if you seek mental help or mental resources. And once I started on my own journey with that, I realized, like, no, I'm actually not crazy. And I want to be careful saying that because I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody who, whatever challenges they might be going through, whatever struggles they have. But seeking those things doesn't mean that you're certifiable or that you have problems. It just means that you need a little bit extra. So, something more to give you a new perspective or a different lens to look through. And again, didn't learn that until I was on my own journey. But that's what I want people to realize. It's not, you don't have another problem just because you're seeking resources or seeking help.
Yeah, and that's really why in the artwork for the show and the title, because it was initially going to be Shiria's Conversations, which was oddly really close to the name of yours. But I really didn't want it to be about me. That was one thing. And then I really wanted to hone in on what was important. And so I really liked Mind Matters because it's taking care of your mind. And so in the artwork, there's a brain and there's a heart inside of the brain. And I think that's the important part. You're supposed to take care of your whole body. And so I know we had talked about this, I think, before we jumped on, but it's really interesting to me that we know you're supposed to work out your heart at the gym and do cardio, and you're supposed to lift weights to stretch out your muscles. But then for some reason we get to the brain like, oh, can't do that. Let's not talk about that, which is really bizarre. It's not another problem. Like you said, you're just maintaining the thing that you're supposed to. You maintain all the other aspects of your body. So like 95% of it get taken care of. And like, no, not the giant thing in your skull. It's
that controls
really bizarre.
Literally everything.
The most important part.
Yeah.
So we will keep having conversations on the show, and hopefully we can get over this. But it's definitely interesting. Like being here at SOS, it's been interesting because I'm really happy for the future of like the Air Force and just kind of the generation as a whole, because our age group seems to understand and is working through these things, even though we've had like guest speakers that are older. Definitely can't mention any names, but some of them have, said negative things about pill popping and about like inclusive male facial standards or grooming standards, which I have struggled with for a long time. And so I got my waiver about a week before I came to class. And I was actually thinking about just, going against my medical waiver, which isn't the right thing, just to appease people and fit in. But the group that's at this age group is really understanding, supporting, they understand. So I'm really excited for the future. I think once we get through, a little bit more of the older people and their thoughts and things, things are going to be a lot better here coming up soon. So I'm excited.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. Totally. Last question I've got for you, Nate, is I'm big into favorites, and anytime anyone wants to talk about like favorite song, favorite album, favorite band, like I'm always down for it. So what is your favorite song to listen to, or music genre, whenever you need a mental health boost or mental fitness boost?
Oh,
it's a loaded question because it's like, okay, favorite, like we've got this genre. We've got, okay, can I do a top 3? Can I do a top 5? Like, so I had to pick a hard one for you.
Yeah, this one's tough because I really think it depends on the mood that you're trying to counteract. Are you trying to come from a down or a low? Are you trying to pull yourself down from a high? So there's so many different things, but I've noticed, I don't know if there's actually science behind this. I feel like I see these things on TikTok, and now people can throw things out on the internet, and you never know if they're backed by science or anything.
Yeah, true.
But it's interesting because once you hear it, I feel like you start to agree with it, whether it's true or not. But I definitely heard the other day that, like, for certain brains, higher beats per minute is better. And ever since I heard that, I feel like I do feel better, like if I am in a rut of some kind for like EDM mixes of like popular songs mixed up, kind of sped up. So it doesn't quite answer like a direct song, but I feel like that's what's been helping in me lately. A lot of different things going on and kind of that faster beat. But I also love like acoustic, slow music, depending on what's going on. But I think overall, the boost would be like higher EDM. And I think I'm apparently the brain that likes the fast stuff.
I like the EDM and the fast stuff too. Some of it I'm just like, huh? But like a lot of gyms and things like that. That I think that's why they use those to like get the energy up. Kind of. I'm going to say it's wrong. Like get the endorphins up, get the serotonin flowing through your brain and everything like that. Get the blood flowing, I guess.
Yeah, so, I think so. There's a guy in my class. He recommended this mix on Spotify, and I've been just listening to it for like 5 weeks straight. Mm-hmm. But it's mixes. These two guys come together and mix a bunch of top 40 songs or just popular songs. And so it's kind of awesome because it's like your favorite 20 to 30 seconds of these songs that everyone knows, and then it's all spliced together. So it's weird. It's actually listed under the podcast section, which is odd because it's definitely music, but it's 1 hour blocks of just these mashes and you just get to basically like Rolodex through, 100 of your favorite songs. I'm like, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. And it's just an hour of a lot of fun. So I've been really enjoying those, and they're, sped up and seem to fit my brain
later. So.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely send you the link. It's great stuff.
Awesome.
So we'll move over, try to hit some more mental fitness questions.
Yeah.
I think I'll kind of package two together.
Yeah.
So did you have conversations about mental health growing up?
No, not at all. So, I mean, I every school that I went to, with the exception of my high school, because my high school was very, very small, and a lot of people were wearing dual hats there. But you always have counselors in school and things like that. But I will say that the idea of a counselor, especially when I was in junior high and high school, was like, that's who the bad kids go to talk to. That's who the kids who get in trouble in class all the time, or who are really just like angry, I guess. That's who they go talk to. That's not for if you are just having a bad day and you want to go talk to someone. If that's the issue, go talk to one of your friends, go talk to one of your parents, go talk to a teacher or things like that. So as far as like what we've talked about with like resources and finding just someone else to like share your thoughts with, get it out of your head with, that did not exist at all. At least not that I can recall, but pretty confident saying was never a conversation. The only time it really was my parents divorced when I was just about to turn 20. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, like, well, the company I was working for, they have like an employee health line that you can call anonymously. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll call them. This is really stressful right now and all that. But outside of that, no conversations about it. The first time that I really had a conversation about mental health or any like inklings dipping the toes in the water with that subject was when I was in the military, when I was 25, and you have people coming to you saying, here's these resources on a platter, take advantage of them if you want to. That was the first time I'd really had any conversations about it.
That's wild. Yeah. So I've asked this question, I think 3 or 4 times now, and haven't got a yes quite yet, which is kind of unfortunate. But I think that goes back to, like I said, I think we're in the year group that's going to make this happen and make this change. So the extension of that question is you love being an uncle, and you're going to start to influence kids. So what could you do, or what would you see as like the ideal of starting to have these conversations so that people can feel comfortable as they're growing up? Obviously they're little, but as they get to teenagers and whatnot, how do you see yourself playing into that?
Well, I mean, I would never want to like overrule any of like anything that my sisters or my brother-in-law is like. Obviously, like what is their approach to it as well? Because I personally wouldn't want to overstep or cause like I don't know if wedge is the right word, but I don't want my nieces or nephews to think that, their parents aren't a resource for them as well. Like, obviously, because they're going to be more direct. They're in the same house with them and, things like that. I live 45 minutes away from both of my sisters, the two that live here in Missouri in each direction. And then I have another one who lives in Mississippi. So I'm not going to always be able to be there directly. So just reminding them that, like, if there's something you want to talk about, your parents are probably your first resource, and I will always be here for you, but take advantage of everything that might be right at your fingertips. And, I'm always going to be here too, but you don't have to wait, if you will. And, lean on the family that you have immediately. Because sometimes, like, if you're in the moment and you're in your head and things like that, you just got to talk to somebody. You want to talk to somebody right then, or you want to get something out right then. If you hold off with it, then you kind of forget the core of what you wanted to talk about. And then you forget it's an issue, and then it lingers and you just never get it. That's speaking from my own experience. So I don't want anybody, my nieces, my nephews, my sisters, my friends, anybody to go through kind of what I did when I was in high school, where I just didn't talk about it at all, or didn't, like, obviously we didn't have the conversations growing up, but maybe if I had gone to my parents or gone to one of my sisters, because it's actually a conversation that I had with one of my sisters a couple of years ago, was like, if I took advantage of those things that were in my household directly there, maybe that would have might not have solved everything, but it might have made things a little bit easier to digest and a little easier to get from Wednesday to Thursday to Friday to Saturday and just go on with the days. So if you're feeling it, find a way to talk about it as quickly as you can. So, and creating a safe space for them as well, for the kids. Just that, I'm their uncle and you can always come to me. Obviously they're little right now, but as they get older and as the world continues to get more challenging,
more crazy.
Yeah, more crazy. So just making sure that they know that it's there. So
let me rephrase it just out of curiosity. So hypothetically, what would you have wanted to see? Action, word, building an environment of trust, or how do you think you would have been able to, had a more successful upbringing? Not that it's not successful, but if you could like play it back, how would you reframe your family environment?
Well, I think for me, and this is something I've thought a lot about too, was I've always been worried about judgment or what people are going to think or assumptions that people are going to draw. I've been pretty transparent about that on my own podcast. Like, people have been saying things to me or about me since I was 9 years old. Not going to stop anytime soon. So I think, and I'm not saying that I don't want to like put my parents down or anything like that, or say that they didn't do this, but I don't know if the lines were always clear that it's a judgment-free zone. And I don't think that's of any error of their part. It was just, we're talking about nearly like almost 20, 25 years ago. So things were different back then. And I don't know that that I could have gone to them with all the things that I was stressing about, like not having friends at school, feeling like I don't belong, feeling like I don't fit in. Those were the things that were really, really bothering me when I was a kid. And like I said, moved back to the States, brand new environment in the middle of 8th grade year. Teenagers are already confusing enough and already difficult enough. I was scrawny. I had these awful glasses. I had bad hair. I had clothes that didn't fit. And I was just like, well, I'm already going in as an underdog here. But I think I would have just been told to get over it or find a way around it, or toughen up type of situation, which I'm very careful that I don't say that to any of the kids or anything like that, because I was doing the best that I could. And again, going back to maybe a judgment-free zone, if I had known that was going to be available, and again, no fault of anybody, but I don't feel like that's how it was. And if I had that, maybe I would have spoke up a little bit more and not just like grit your teeth and bear it type of situation. So.
Yeah, and absolutely not brought up to diminish anyone or anything like that. The whole point behind that question is like, how do we do it better? So people that have kids that, whatever, like, how would you? And so I think that's a good point in trying to make sure that everyone's on the same page of being able to express themselves. And I think we're doing a better job. I'm sure it'll still take some time, but I think we are doing better. Be a man about it, toughen up, pull yourself up by your bootstrings, those like huge long list of cliche things to like, just push through and don't worry about it. I think we're getting better, but I think you're right. The core of the whole thing is being able to express yourself. So if anyone is listening and is wondering, we could definitely chat more about it, but I think that probably is the core. You're not going to have a silver bullet. It's going to fix everything, a level of trust, I think, is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got another question for you. What's one lesson you think everyone should learn in their life?
It's one that I'm still learning myself, but I think the most important thing is being yourself. It's hard to do, and it's scary to do for sure. But embracing. I've always felt kind of, until recently, held back, just like by what people are going to say about the kind of music that I listen to, the clothes that I wear, how I wear my hair, just my personality, the things that I like, the things that make me Nicholas, and the things that make me unique, the things that make me different than the person sitting next to me. And really what I've kind of learned is all that shenanigans and all those little pieces, that's what makes people feel comfortable to maybe talk to me, share secrets with me, ask me for advice, or ask me for help, or just kind of talk to me in general. And not that I'm like trying to make everybody talk to me, but it's a lesson I'm still learning, and I'm still very self-conscious about many things, but embracing who I am and what I feel I put out to the world, and the example that I set for the kids, especially now that there's a lot of them. So, but being yourself and being authentic. And again, it's a lesson, and there's a adolescent version of it, a teenage version of it, a college version, a late 20s, 30s. So, you continue to learn that lesson as you get older, but always being yourself, because that's really where your bread and butter is going to be. So.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. And I think anytime you go through any changes, I remember when I went from E to O, I'm the, jokey, fun, whatever, crazy guy. And so I remember when I crossed, I had this thought I had to be like hardcore and follow every rule and, not smile and just be goofy, not goofy, actually. The lack of goofy. So I just had this weird thought for like the first year, and then, slowly the real Nate comes back. And so it's something, I think that's a good reminder. You said like learning. I think that's a good thing to just check in from time to time and just make sure that you are. It's easier said than done. It's, I'm sure it's on bumper stickers and shirts like be you, but it's like sometimes it's harder
it's
than
an easy marketing tool.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. So yeah, everyone try to be yourself, and I think check in every once in a while and just make sure that's holding true. Last question I got for you. We want to make sure we're wrapping this up with some mental fitness. So can you share any tips or strategies that listeners could take home today and start implementing in their lives?
Well, I think for me, like I said, the big part of my mental fitness journey was just getting it out of my head. It's When it all lives up here, it just compounds and compounds and compounds, and then it just gets so big, like you explode, or it all spills out, and then you just really don't know what to do with it. So download it out of your head in some way. Write it on a piece of paper, write it on a Word document. My notes app on my phone is full of stuff. It's full of lists, full of ideas, full of thoughts, full of observations, just to get it out of my head and not to lose it, to always have something to come back to. Like you said, like we said earlier, you can get it out and then you can come back and then you can revisit and all those different things. And then once it's out of your head, you can kind of like, okay, I want to take action on that. Maybe I want to talk to this friend about this. Maybe I want to call the hotline, the employee assistance hotline, to talk about my parents' divorce or something like that. Maybe I want to talk to my primary care physician about, okay, I'd like to maybe see a professional counselor as part of my health routine. And just getting it out and mapping out your journey and mapping out your steps on your own time as well. There's no, it's not a race by any means, and it's definitely not a sprint. It's a marathon, a very long and hard one. But and also finding, for me, the last couple of years, a big part of my mental fitness is being kinetic. I was doing New York Times crossword puzzles at one point. I was, I got some adult coloring books. I still haven't colored in very many of them, but it's just to do something with my hands, to keep sitting there stewing over things. I'm a really bad stewer, if that's even a word. So anything just to get the thoughts out of my head and into another format, or to keep myself moving to where I don't overthink things and just blow them up bigger than they need to be. So that's what I would recommend to folks.
Absolutely. That's some good stuff. I want to try to summarize a few things we talked about today. So a few of the things to highlight: mental fitness is a spectrum. We talked about just having ability to vent and have a small conversation, up to needing, more clinical, mental health professional type care. We talked about really trying to take care of your brain as another part of your body. So you're checking in, you're having that therapy, you're having someone to talk to, and it's reoccurring. You go on the good days and, you go on the bad days. You go, reoccurringly the same way you go to the gym. So those are kind of some of the things we talked about. I'd really like to encourage the listeners to share their thoughts or any questions or anything on social media, or send me an email. I can get over to Nicholas if he needs it. And then I want to wrap up, give you one final takeaway for the listeners out there. Sure.
One final piece there. Like I said, being yourself, embracing your authenticity, and give things a try. Try it. Like I said, if you want to write a book, get a few pages written. If you want to do a podcast, write it out, record yourself, see how it goes. If you want to get into the gym, take a walk around the neighborhood, do some push-ups, like whatever you want to do with your life, with your free time, or as part of your mental fitness journey. It's never too late to be the person who you want to be, or be the person who you thought you could be, or try something that you've always wanted to. Like I said, doing the podcast and writing and things like that, didn't start doing. I wanted to be an author when I was a kid, or I wanted to be someone who created a format for story sharing, or shared stories. Wanted to do that when I was a kid. People told me I wouldn't make money with it, so then I was like, okay, I guess I'll be an accountant, which I'm still not an accountant either. But creating content, I guess, or writing things out and writing stories, sharing stories, it's always been something I've wanted to do, and here I am, mid-30s, doing it. It's it's not a moneymaker or anything like that. It's not supposed to be. It's just something for myself to get the creativity out of my head and get my hands dirty with it a little bit. And if you don't like it, find something else. So
absolutely,
and be yourself and give things a try. So don't stand in your own way. Don't be the reason that you're not putting yourself over the starting line.
Good stuff. Well, thanks, Nick, for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
I think the last part I just want to touch on is, I didn't touch on it already, but mental fitness shouldn't be cookie cutter, right? Like, I
No.
think that's really what you were trying to get at. I talked about being in nature. We talked about songs. We talked about a long list of different things, going to the gym, coloring books. So I think that's another issue we probably have. We probably need to work on over the next, however many years, but it's not trying to, this one thing works for everybody. It kind of is whatever it is for each person. And I want to wrap up here. Just say, as always, if you need help, make sure you're getting help from military one source, chaplains, wingmen, mental health professionals. And in the United States, you can call or text the National Suicide Hotline at 988 at any time. You can also reach out to me. You could probably find Nick too. We're always down to chat. So please make sure you get some help and have a good day. See you.
Absolutely.